Journey into Irish Music, the podcast, episode 1, Bob Banerjee. 30-second intro starts now. Bob was born in Calcutta, India, but moved to the United States when he was 3 years old. Bob's father was a professor, but there was definitely some culture shock moving from India to the beef capital of America, Texas. But in 1967, they moved him out in Lebanon, Pennsylvania. Bob's father played sitar and his mother was a dancer, so it was inevitable that Bob would pick up an instrument, the violin, because it was easiest to carry and fun to annoy people when he first got started. He got better. After 20 years of classical violin, Bob went over to the dark side and began playing improvisational country, bluegrass, reggae, jazz, rock, and Irish music. Bob was discovered by John McCann in the late 90s when he needed a fiddle-player to fill out the sound of his album This Day, which is the catalyst for the Corned Beef and Curry Band, still a fixture in Pittsburgh's music scene. 28 seconds, cue the intro! The history of Irish music is as rich and magical as the island itself. Join me as we travel across Ireland and even down to the local pub to discover what makes Irish music so fascinating. This is Journey into Irish Music. And so, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Journey into Irish Music podcast, the first episode. And you just heard some hopefully lovely audio that I have put together myself. I'm going to call it lovely because, hell, I produced it. And I'm here with, and I couldn't be more excited to be here with my friend and an amazing musician and just part of the fabric of Irish music in Pittsburgh, Mr. Bob Banerjee. Welcome, sir.
Top of the morning to you, Craig.
And as we can see, you are very Irish. One of the most Irish.
One look at me. I mean, look at the red hair and the freckles, and Matter of fact, I'm sure you know that when I play around Pittsburgh, sometimes instead of using my name Bob Banerjee, I have to introduce myself as Mahatma O'Reilly. So if it gives me more credibility that way.
Set those expectations,
Indeed it does.
So I want to talk about something first that just happened, and I had no idea what was happening until I saw it on your Facebook today. Was this book that just came out. So tell me about this. I'm going to put a link in the information here, but I think this is kind of a big deal.
It is kind of a big deal. It's a big deal to me because there is this venue that's called the Steamworks Creative Acoustic Stage, and it has been the breeding grounds of great acoustic solo performances by these musicians from all over Pittsburgh. And when I mean musicians from Pittsburgh, I mean these are not only people, there's some people that are starting out, but there are some people that are just top rockers that have been the top of the Pittsburgh rock industry for a long time, and they're getting a chance to do an acoustic show or bring in smaller versions of their band, duos and trios. And well, I've had my chance to also be on that stage, and I've had a great deal of great positive responses to some of the originals that I put out, and some of the violin looping that I've done and things like that. And this gentleman by the name of Skipp Barr, who archives things for Steamworks Creative, has put together a list of top musicians that have played there. And it's a wonderful coffee table book of portraits of all of these folks that have been part of the action. And just to be part of these 100 or so different people that he has profiled it's quite an honor. I'm humbled every time something like that happens, and I'm just so pleased to be recognized as somebody who is participatory and as well as living in this Pittsburgh music scene. So it's a great thing.
Well, like I said, congratulations. It looks amazing. It sounds like an amazing project, and I think people should go look into it, especially if you live in Pittsburgh, and when we're allowed to go outside again, you can go check that venue out, and I highly recommend it.
One of the other things that I love is that the owner, founder, manager of this, John Vento, is a musician himself. And the thing that I really love is he's very community oriented. He has actually used this venue to bring in people of various stages of autism. They have a special night where they have kids that are on all ranges of this spectrum that they bring in, and they give them their own open stage to do whatever they want. And it's incredible. Every year he's put this on, and it's been amazing boost for how we feel about the Pittsburgh musical community and everybody in it, of every background. And it's so good if we can get this level of creativity from these young kids, and it gives them something very different to be accepted for. It's really good to get these kind of things. Again, what a community service. Every community should have somebody that puts up something like that. I really feel strongly that that any kind of different abilities should not be taken as they're different, but how do they make things even more creative? So, as you know, my wife has had multiple sclerosis for over 33 years, and we've come to grips with what her disabilities are versus what her abilities are. And It's something that stayed with me for the last 3 decades. So this is cool to see other people contributing like that within the community. So a lot of philosophy on that, but I just think.
Oh, sure. No, that's great. That's great. And again, it's something I very much appreciate, and I'm glad that's happening. And also that it's happening in Pittsburgh.
Yes.
Pittsburgh, that's where I grew up. I haven't lived there since 1992, so it's been a while.
Oh, the Pirates are still losing. It's okay.
Yeah, nothing. Some things are never change.
Some things never change.
But Pittsburgh is a great city for supporting the arts, and Irish music is included in that, obviously.
Nice.
And I think we first met. You had known my brother, but we first met. I don't know. Maybe 10, 15 some odd years ago. You were playing at probably Harp and Fiddle.
The Harp and Fiddle in the Strip District.
In Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think that's where it was. And I was visiting from St. Louis and caught your show. And just the energy of the crowd. This venue doesn't hold 1,000, 15,000 people. It's a small venue, but the energy of the crowd was as much or not more than some concerts I have seen with an exponentially more people. So that's incredible.
That is incredible that you remember that, because that is what we've strived for. That's what Irish music, as far as I'm concerned, Irish music is ultimately every kind of mental and spiritual and personal feel that you can get. There are sad songs, there are family songs, but then there are the songs that I live for, which are, they're clap your hands, stomp your feet, and drink your beer.
Absolutely.
These are phenomenal things.
And I will say that one show was what inspired me to actually form a band. I've been playing music, metal bands and things like that. I've been playing Irish music for a while, but to actually form a band and go out and play the music myself, because I crave that same energy from the crowd. It was so infectious that it was something that really made me want to do it as well.
Good for you. Good for you. That's what we need to do, Craig. We need to get everybody. So all of you that are listening, okay, all of you that are watching, be aware that the best thing that you can do is find that way to share that stuff that Craig and I were just talking about. You'll feel better for it. I know you will.
Absolutely. And again, it was so infectious. The first time I ever met you, and the Corned Beef and Curry Band.
and notice you said, and he said it right, it's the Corned Beef and Curry Band. Now
right, not cabbage. You're not a
That's
cabbage.
Not how
Bob.
it started. It's not how it started, though. The history of the band is kind of interesting. I'll kind of give you a short story of how I met John McCann, who was the lead singer of the band. He came from Buffalo, New York to Pittsburgh after he married his wife here in Pittsburgh, and became a solo Irish artist. And really played a lot of really neat places around Pittsburgh, really developed a nice reputation as a solo artist, playing all these great traditional Irish tunes. And in 1998, yes, back when dinosaurs ruled the earth,
right.
But in 1998, John was recording his first CD called This Day. And there was one tune in particular in it that was called McPherson's Lament. And actually it's called, I think in Ireland, there are versions of it that are called McPherson's Rant.
Right.
But it's a song that has a great history. And it's about an urban legend in Ireland by the name of McPherson. And he was a Robin Hood kind of character. He took from the rich and he gave to the poor, which made him a folk hero in all the villages that he went to. And one of the things he was known for is he played fiddle, and he would go to various of these community ceilidhs, the folk dances, the community dances. And at these ceilidhs, he would regale them with his violin. So not only was a folk hero, but he would play at these dances. Well, as the legend goes, he's still an outlaw, right? He's still stealing things. So the sheriff brings him in and captures him, and he's in jail. And the sheriff, being, your guy of Gisborne or sheriff of the Robin Hood kind of stories, he is going to execute and hang McPherson.
A common theme in folk music.
A common theme, exactly right. Death to the outlaw, right? And of course, the people are petitioning the best that they can to see that he doesn't get hung. So the date has been set for the hanging, the time has been set, and they sent a petition to the governor to absolve him and to get rid of this awful, awful edict. And so they sent out riders or whatever to get something back. In the meantime, the executioner lines him up to be hung or hanged, excuse me. I guess it means two different things nowadays. Anyways,
sure.
To be hanged. And
that part was already predetermined.
One thing that he said was, McPherson, you're a bad guy, so here's what I'm going to do. When you're done, I'm going to take this fiddle that you played, and I am going to sell it to a top bidder, and that'll be worth something to me. And McPherson, in response, said, well, I'll tell you what, if you're going to do that, then you have to let me play one more tune before I die. And so he takes his fiddle, and he plays this amazing amount of everything that he has within his soul that comes out through the violin. He plays his fiddle tune, and then he takes the thing and he breaks it over a rock. Broken fiddle. And he says, there's nobody else that's going to play on this fiddle but me. And therein lies the song. Now, you think that's the end, but no. The executioner, in order to make sure that he's hung, there's a reprieve that is coming. But the executioner sets the clock back and sets a new time to it so that he is hung regardless. And therein lies what is McPherson's lament. And it's a really cool song. So when John McCann came to me and said, I'd like you to play fiddle, he said, I'm going to give you this solo part, and I want you to play whatever comes to your mind. I want you to play everything. And I told John, I'm not an Irish fiddler. And he said, no, that's part of it. I want you to play as if it was your last thing that you ever had a chance to leave a legacy to your music. You play what you want to. And he said, and to make it even more, he said, to focus this in terms of what you're going to be feeling. Pretend like I want you to get into this sight that there is no more hope. You're going to go. The saddest thing that you could possibly imagine. Imagine if your favorite pet just got hit by a car. Imagine if your family, somebody just passed away. Well, of course, by that time, we were both bawling even before the tune started. And then we get into the studio space, and I think I put together an 8-minute solo that went through bluegrass and bluesy and double stops and chording and Irish flavoring and everything like that. And by the time I was through, just spent. And I can tell you that that's what got me started with thinking in terms of how Irish genre fits in with everything. Well, John loved what I did. It sounded so good. He said, why don't you play on some of the other Irish tunes that I have? So he had 12 songs. I played on 10 of them.
Nice.
And after that, we became really good friends, and we started performing live. And in the early 2000s, I would play at many of the places that John would play and became a regular partner. And we were playing at some gig, and somebody came up and said, well, you know, it's really cool to see you, an Irish guy, and you, an Indian guy. And, what do you guys call yourselves? And, John and Bob. Well, hell, that's how creative is that? And they said, no, you should have something that's more Irish and more Indian. So there was a night where somebody suggested, John, you're like, Irish food, corned beef. And Bob, you're like curry. And right then and there, corned beef and curry was born. So
Awesome.
That's how the name came. Now, obviously, we get the joke. What people look at me. I mean, look how Irish we were joking about this.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
It's not corned beef and cabbage under any circumstance. But that is what the first gig that we played at. They put in musical entertainment by the Corned Beef and Cabbage Band.
Oh.
So I went to the little blue-haired lady that put the program together, and I said, excuse me, miss, I'm sorry about this, but, it's not corned beef and cabbage. It's corned beef and curry, just like this, corned beef and curry. And she looked at me with this incredulous look and said, now what the hell kind of dish would that be?
Oh, and you couldn't say anything back.
No, that's when you walk away and you go,
right.
Okay, I get it.
I've got no comeback to that. Perfectly. You are right.
Anyways, the thing that we like about it is exactly this. We don't have to be 100% Irish. We're not traditional, but we try to take traditional Irish tunes and make them fun in our own ways, which sometimes means we rock them up a little bit. It means we change the way that they're presented.
So let's I want to focus on that for a second, because my next question was going to be, what keeps you playing the music? We've discovered sort of the epiphany, the catharsis that, recording with John, the one song where you just poured everything out, and then almost baptism became an Irish musician in just that like moment.
That's a wonderful way of saying it. Yes, that was my Irish baptism.
So at least an honorary Irishman, right?
At least.
So what is your favorite Irish tune to play, and why?
Boy, that's a Sophie's Choice question, man. You're asking me a really tough question.
That's why I said currently, because it gives you a little bit of an out. Like, right now at this moment, 10 minutes from now might be something different.
10 minutes from now, it's going to be something different. Absolutely. I love performing a song that was written by Flogging Molly right now. There's a tune that's out there called Float. And the three of us, John and Hamish and I, do in our version something that is really incredible. We prepare a wall of sound that doesn't have the whole Flogging Molly, multiple piece, huge drums, distortion guitar, all of those kind of things. Right. I love it because it allows me to do a change. I start playing mandolin, and then in the middle of the tune, after a chorus, it switches to fiddle. Nice. We have not recorded this in public, but our live responses have been, and this goes back to your question, why do I play this music? It has the beat, it has the rhythm, the groove, it has the rock and roll intensity that people get into. Right. And it really, it rocks the house when we play it. So right now, my favorite Irish tune is definitely our version of Float. Again, you're right. You can ask me in 10 minutes and I'll probably tell you something different.
And I might. So it's for you, and we talked about this, you touched on this a little bit earlier, the reaction of the crowd, being able to have the crowd as almost part of the band.
So all my life, I have been trying to find ways of getting less of a wall between the audience and me. My idea of a musical performance is not to walk on stage with a set list and to gauge my success as to whether I have finished everything on that set list. I don't think that's fair in an interactive environment. Now, if I'm in a performance hall, okay, which all of us are, if we're lucky to do that, that's a different story altogether. That is the opportunity for you to make your mark, to be able to do your performance and get people to engage with themselves on their own, and then after the gig is over to consider your body of work, your collection, and be able to see how that affects. There's with the passing of John Prine, I'm really not surprised either, I take that back, of the outpouring of people that have related to his music, both from an interactive standpoint and just being able to put on a song that was written 30 years ago, 40 years ago, and still be able to have as much fun with that song.
Oh, absolutely. And it was so surprising to me to see the various, like a lot of my friends who I'd never thought were John Prine fans were expressing their grief on the various social media, Facebook and things like that. And I've been playing John Prine in my sets for years. Paradise is always.
I agree with you. And then love songs like Angel from Montgomery, which is one of the first songs that I do non-violin oriented songs, but when I play guitar and when I have a set, I love doing that song because it's a folk song. It describes relationships. It describes the path of a relationship. I think that's great.
Right.
And again, based on your question, why do musicians play music? Why do I play the kind of music? It's because I want people to have a emotional or visceral response to what I'm doing.
And that, my friends, brings us to the end of part 1 of the interview with Bob Banerjee. Stay tuned for the second part coming soon. Journey into Irish Music, the podcast, episode 1. Bodhrán March and Kitty McGee, traditional, performed by Craig Mayhem. Morrison's Jig, traditional, performed by Sláinte, used with permission via Creative Commons Attribution-Share Alike 3.0 United States license. Irish Washerwoman, traditional, performed by Howie and Ann Mitchell, used with permission via Attribution Non-Commercial Share Alike 3.0 United States license. Roth CO, The Mermaid, McPherson's Lament, traditional, performed by John McCann and Bob Banerjee, used with permission. Morrison's Jig, traditional, performed by Corned Beef and Curry, used with permission. La 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 Beer Me, copyright Bob Banerjee, performed by Bob Banerjee, used with permission.